is too sexy too early. But looking at the developmental side, what's actually happening? They don't have the insight that we do. Their brain's still developing. Emotionally, they're still developing. Socially, they're still developing. Early relationships with parents are vitally important. The way that they're communicating with parents and the way that parents are actually parenting them. So between 15 months to about 4 years, children are learning about the world through their sensory experiences. As they get older, between 6 to 10, or between 5 to 7, as Piaget talked about, 2 to 7, they're starting to learn to think in images. So as you can see, this is all very immature, it's developing, they're not all the way there yet. When we look at those ages, really, between 2 to 10, we're talking about these ages right now. And as I'll show you in a moment, the research is showing that as young as 5 to 6, girls are already getting ideas about dieting and body image. At pre-puberty, 7 to 11, they're only just starting to understand logical principles. As they get to mid-adolescence, they're learning to think abstractly, but this continues right through into adulthood. Some research is saying now that maybe early 20s for girls, perhaps even closer to 30 for males, before our frontal cortex is fully developed. And as the research comes out, it seems to be later and later. I'm wondering whether we're going to get to stages where perhaps it's never fully developed. But it's really important to keep that in mind, that children's brains are still developing. They haven't got the ability to rationalise that way that we do, and they won't until they're probably in their early or late 20s. Between 3 and 6, a child's imagination is at its height. The line between reality and fantasy can be blurred. This is where they may have more nightmares. It might be a time when they have imaginary friends. Now, if we're saying between 5 and 6 is when girls are already being aware of dieting behaviours and body image, and here we are, we're talking about they haven't actually got to the stage where they're actually feeling fully independent and they've got this imagination that can get out of control, you can see that the two perhaps going together may not fit very well. And I'm seeing children with heightened anxiety at 5 and 6 years of age. So we need to be aware that we're providing them with the right images and the right information so they can develop healthily. Between 11 and 15, girls can take a bit of dip with their self-esteem, and so they may be more likely to become depressed. That's why we need to be very wary and conscious of this, so we help our girls through that stage. I've noticed in my clinical practice for males, it's a bit later. Sometimes it can be between about 17 and 18 and early 20s. So girls do it during a very critical time of their development. The way they attach to their parents, the way they attach to mum, the way we've attached to our parents will also determine the type of relationships we have with friends and partners later. We need to encourage girls to have self-esteem about who they are, otherwise the measure of who they are is going to be the boy. So what research recommends is authoritative, all warm but firm. There are boundaries, and the boundaries are relevant to the child's age, stages of development, but it's filled with unconditional love. The child is always loved. We may not always love the behaviour, but we love the child. All of these are really important because it sets the child up for healthy self-esteem and the ability to form good relationships and make good choices, so they're not pulled into the peer pressure that may occur. I'm seeing more and more 15-year-old girls that sit in my room and say, but I don't want to go out to those parties, and I don't want to buy those clothes, and I just want to do my schoolwork. And they're actually not wanting to go to school. There's a significant increase in school refusal amongst girls who don't feel they belong to the group. And their parents, unfortunately, sometimes their mothers want me to fix that and make them want to go shopping and go out with boys and go to parties. So I actually say to these parents, you've done a wonderful job. This is really important. Let's continue keeping them 15. They'll have plenty of time to do all the rest if they want to, when they're actually fully developed and ready to understand what's happening. According to the research, girls from 6 years of age are desiring a thinner, ideal body. They are ready, have an awareness of dieting and how to obtain the desired thinner body, so they know they need to reduce certain foods or not eat. And they're too young to properly judge what they're experiencing. So they may be assuming, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do, dress this way, not eat this, because they're too young to judge. As I've just shown you, developmentally, they don't have the tools yet. And although adolescence is most commonly highlighted at the time at which the body image concerns heighten, those foundations are there much earlier. They're happening much earlier, so we need to be aware of that. Some boys are also being affected. As I said, I'm seeing depression in boys younger and younger. They're also being told that they're supposed to act this way with girls, or that they're supposed to have this buff body with these rippled muscles. And some of the research I found is saying that they're also, when they're rating bodies, are looking at those buff bodies as being the ideal. Some of the research I found also talked about that some boys are also developing eating disorders or using steroids to have this ideal body. It's not that all boys are this way, it's the culture that's out there. And I also see boys that are withdrawing. They're quite happy just to stay at home and not go out because of what they might be expected to do. We need to be the ones they come to, and we need to have the right information, and we need to do it, as I said, on the background of unconditional love, so they can trust us and know that we have their best interests at heart. So we're not commenting on their weight or on our own. So again, modelling dieting behaviours. Parents are doing that, and then girls are following their mother's example. Parents are not saying no. Sometimes they're wanting to be friends rather than parents. Unfortunately, I can give you a scenario where, let's say, a mother comes to see me and brings her 17-year-old girl in and says, I think my 17-year-old girl is rigid. She won't have sex with her boyfriend. Can you please fix her? And I talked to the 17-year-old girl and find out she's been friends with this boy since she was about 12. They're really good friends. She doesn't really want to have sex with him. So I said, you don't have to. She was quite relieved. And then talked to Mum about we need to be looking at whether this is the right thing for her, whether she's ready. And that let's talk about foundation of love and respect and how to have relationships and give good examples of how to have relationships so that our girls and our boys understand that relationships are more than just about sex. Children learn from watching. They learn more from what they see us do than what they hear us say. I don't know how many of you have turned on the television on Saturday morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, and there's Rage with all those sexualised images. And we know that young children get up early to watch telly on Saturday mornings. Some parents are perhaps sleeping in thinking that's okay, they're watching children's programs. Meanwhile, they're being exposed to these very sexualised and sometimes quite violent images with music. 46.9% of their sample decide to be thinner, which is congruent with earlier findings that with 5 to 7-year-old children. This is very young. They've just started school and they're already aware of it. What's happened to normal 5 to 7-year-old behaviour where they're interested in play and books? We need to be really aware that the focus has changed significantly. It suggests that the media presented thin ideals are negatively impacting on the development of these girls. Music videos portray high levels of sex roles, stereotyping women, and they're very provocatively dressed, they're highly attractive, so it's not surprising that girls are getting these ideas about dieting and this thin ideal. Parents need to be mindful of their daughter's level of media consumption, in particular access to media containing a large emphasis on appearance and thin ideals. We need to be showing our children age-appropriate television. It needs to be interactive, so they're actually doing something, learning something. Otherwise, books are great. They can read them, they can learn from them, they can go outside, perhaps use their imagination from a story they've just read and act out that play, be physically active. So we need to have programs that are directed specifically for children, and let's show our young children that it's fun to be 5 and 6. It's fun to be 7 and 8. And really focus on other domains about the personality of the child, what they're actually really good at doing, their skills, their achievements, but even just their personality. What sort of a personality? Are they calm and thoughtful? Are they energetic? Are they bubbly? Let's help them see who they are, not just what they look like.